I like AP Lit because you build upon all of the language skills you learned in Lang, but you can now individualize it a little bit more and write what you want to about the books, and you can take all of those skills and expand upon them. I like that.
I personally like the fact that actually for the first time in an English class, I really liked the books I was reading. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed like reading things like Great Expectations, and I actually like Beloved, just certain things like that, and they were such advanced books that they really helped me realize how far I had come in my 4 years of high school when it comes to reading, and like how my skills have like improved. And also reading those books did also help me with my writing skills as well, because seeing that vocabulary and the certain styles helped me grow in using my own voice.
Awesome. Any advice for students this next year?
I would really read the books and interact with all of them, because the conversations in class will be that much more valuable if you know what they're talking about and you can add to them. So
yeah, talking about it, definitely. Like if you talk about it in class and stuff, talk about it. Don't just sit there in the corner. Like, it really helps to just get involved in it, because then you understand the book better too, and you can see other interpretations that you might not have had at your first glance.
Awesome.
All right. I'm Joe Wasserman.
I'm Jack Miller.
And we're here to advise about AP Literature and Composition. I'd say that for me, the biggest part about AP Lit is getting your crap done. You gotta do it every night, and you can't put it off and be like, alright, I'll do double the next night, because it's not gonna happen. You gotta get your crap done.
When I think of AP Lit, I think of the transition from AP Language to wherever you go after high school, and kind of it's that culmination of writing and reading and really working yourself into academic writing in a way that makes you proud of what you create.
Favorite book?
Favorite book? Well, I think Great Expectations would be a pretty basic answer. So I'm gonna go with Othello. It's actually a play, so I'm gonna answer it. Yeah.
I liked Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness actually the most.
Really?
It's a short book, but it's dense and the story is incredible. So read it. Don't say you did.
Which a lot of people do if they don't get their crap done.
So get it done.
All right, ladies, what'd you like about AP Lit?
Well, first of all, going into AP Lit, confession time, wasn't the biggest reader, but through AP Lit, I really found that I really do enjoy reading, and it's just how you read the book. You know, if you really focus into not always just reading it from a school standpoint, like, okay, because I'm going to be quizzed on this, then if you read it and try to find like, oh wow, this is a beautiful kind of like what the author does here. But I really enjoyed reading them, and then being able to talk to people in class about it, the group discussions that we had, bouncing off of each other, coming up with insights that other people had, and then forming new ones of your own, and things that you necessarily didn't even think about. And then come time to having to write a paper, it was actually kind of fun, because you got to just really go super in deep into your head and the insight and the take that you had on the book, and you just got to talk about it. And I became a really great writer, I feel, through this class. I was a little discouraged after AP Lang, but after taking AP Lit, I feel very solid that I have a great foundation to communicate any kind of thing that I would like to, and to talk at an educated level.
Alright, there are 3 things that I like about AP Lit the most. Number 1 is basically the books we read. Even if some of the books were not my cup of tea, such as, admittedly, unlike, let's say, 95% of the class, I was not a big fan of Great Expectations, just because it was not my cup of tea. It's not the writing style that I generally like. I also was not the biggest fan of Heart of Darkness. But even though I didn't particularly like reading those books, I was still grateful that I read them, just because it gave you a sense of, you know, just built up upon your cultural literacy. It let you know things. It let you expand your horizons and scope of what you read, and now you can say, I've read that. And now you can say, I've read in this genre. I know that. And you can really just navigate what you like and what you don't like now. Because if you don't like, for example, Great Expectations, then you now know, maybe I'm not the biggest fan of Victorian literature, and you can go explore different avenues of reading. The second one was I definitely really loved the community in AP Lit. Unlike in AP Lang, because frankly a lot of people, I'd say most people do take AP Lang. A lot of these people aren't exactly big fans of literature and are just, going through the motions and are just doing what it takes to get the grade. But the people here, since it's an optional class and it's a supplementary class, they take it because they love literature a lot of the time or want to learn how to love literature. And because of that, a lot of the time these people really understand the book better. And because of that, you can actually joke about the book. That's my favorite part, is joking about the book. Like, I stared into the heart of darkness and I made it. Like, whatchamacallit. And there's stuff like, you can make fun of Othello and his pillow talk. You can make... Oh, the horror. How many days pass in Heart of Darkness?
Those are all about.
Yeah.
Or, hey, beloved, like, whatchamacallit, the baby, just the baby. And the third thing was, I promise I'll be fast. I actually liked writing the essays. I mean, it just keeps you fresh and it keeps you going. It's, AP Lang definitely teaches you how to write, and AP Lit is what keeps you continuing to write.
Okay, as you guys were reading, what were some of the strategies that helped you to get through the reading and then to feel like successfully prepared for doing the writing that we do?
Annotate,
Why?
because then you can go back and look at stuff.
Remember what you noticed. Yeah. Remember what you, what you came across and what prompted a thought.
I was a fan of thinking everything that you're reading is like great, so that I would think like, oh, I want to read this more, and then I'd read it more. I'm not a fan of annotating though. It messes it up for me. So
I didn't really annotate. I would just write down page numbers of like pages that were really important to remember, and then that way you can go back to them, and it's very easy. It's great.
Okay, any other advice?
Enjoy the ride.
yeah.
Ends pretty quickly.
And what were your favorite works that you read?
Sun Also Rises.
Heart of Darkness.
Sun Also Rises.
Farewell Arms.
Farewell the Legs.
Mamma mia!
So my favorite part about AP Lit was definitely reading all the books, because at first I was really intimidated by knowing that we would have to read these like Great Expectations. It's so long, it's like 500 pages, and I was like really scared about it. But then when I started, I thought, oh, like this is actually interesting and fun, and we can all relate to this, and it's not just something for like scholars to read or something like that. It's for anyone, any high school student.
I didn't think I'd believe us a sister when she said the first day after this course we'll feel like you can pick up any book and read it, but at the end that's actually how I felt. You should like see my annotations. They don't even look like they're like from a scholarly book. They're like, oh snap,
Yeah.
like, did it again.
Oh,
but
no,
it just I fell in love with the readings in a way that I didn't think I would, knowing what the books were going to be. So I'd say that was my biggest takeaway from this class.
I think all out through high school, most kids just like don't want to read the books they have to read in class, and you have to completely get that out of your mind. I think reading these books with this class is a privilege, because you will see things, and like you're not going to have a book club always in the future where you can talk to these things about people, and it's actually fun. Like we still debate stuff. We still debate stuff about it, and the insights that everybody gives you. So I think you have to read the books. It'll be better than not reading them at all.
And just being able to like come up with interpretations and defend it. I remember for Great Expectations, I compared it to a children's book that I read when I was like 3.
Or
and I
Beloved
didn't,
to Harry Potter.
Yeah, and I didn't think that I'd be able to do that, but writing those papers was actually really satisfying, and coming away and having written like a 12-page paper, which I never thought I'd be able to do, but then I looked back at it and I just saw how much my writing had grown, and it was felt a really good feeling.
You'll realize you're gonna have to start cutting down like your essay. Oh my god! But for sure, that's how I think you should write your essay. If you're like, oh, I don't want to write this up, just write it like you're just like talking about all the cool stuff and then format it later. Like I feel like that's so useful, just to be passionate about it first, because you're gonna write such a better paper if you care and you put your voice into it. So if you have a time to edit and stuff, then I would do something like that.
Well, and I never thought I'd be able to do that before, but then like
Yeah.
after being in this class, it made me want to find those new ideas.
Yeah,
And, like,
don't think of it as an
write all that.
assignment. Like,
Oh no,
just
it's
do
just-
it.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Okay, so I guess a way that I would put this class in perspective of maybe a different class or a different subject, I guess in terms of math, as a senior, I'm in calculus for the first time this year, and I've noticed that in calculus, things just build upon each other, and each unit, it's taking what you learned in the previous unit and adding more to it and getting to the next level. And I've never experienced that in other math classes, and I think it's the same way with lit, that in the past with other classes, even though you learn a lot, it's hard to connect them and to see how they build upon each other. But in lit, there's a really natural and awesome progression that takes you from the first to the last day. And I think the things you learn metaphorically kind of take you up this mountain, and at the end, you can look down and see everything that took you there, and it's a really beautiful thing.
And something that's really important is even if you don't like the book per se, you're still able to learn a lot from the book through analyzing it, especially because these books were chosen for a reason, because they're of high literary merit and they're considered of high literary merit for a reason. So even if you don't love the book, you should still read it, because even if you're reading it out of spite, you should read it so that you can participate in the discussions, and then you will get so much more out of the class being able to participate in the discussions.
Touching back a little bit on what Carly was saying earlier, rather than having it be just kind of like a timeline, or it's a straight line and you kind of chunk out throughout the trimester, we're going to accomplish this then, we're going to accomplish this here, and you don't really base it much on the last unit. It's more or less the progression of the pyramid, as in you're building kind of the base and then you're slowly going higher and higher and using all the skills that you've learned from the base up to a culminating point.
I would have told myself that I need to annotate more thoroughly, because just highlighting random things that doesn't work. You need to like go through and you actually need to like write down what I'm thinking, because going back, like I started doing that later on, and like in my essays, like that was actually started getting really helpful, like being like, oh, like this is like a metaphor and like whatnot, and like that was super helpful for like my papers later on.
So did you go back and use your annotations pretty extensively when you wrote your papers?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Like, especially in Great Expectations. Like my first half of the book was like super lax annotations, and then towards the end, like it was like pretty intense, and like that was like super helpful. My paper, which I think that was my favorite paper of the year.
If I could say something to myself in the beginning, I would say to not be intimidated by the way that the class starts, because you'll get to class and Mrs. Cicero will tell you that you're reading this book that you've never heard of, and that you're going to read it for a few months, and then you're going to write this huge essay on it, and it's going to be great. And you're sitting there like, no, this is not going to be great. And then you realize you get into this book and everyone starts talking about it, and then by the time that you're done reading the book, when you start writing, like I was supposed to write a 4-page essay, and I ended up writing an 8-page essay and having to cut it down because I just had that much to say about it and was that excited about the topic that like I got to pick. So I would say don't be intimidated.
Oh, I got another one. And you should be a nerd about what you're reading, because it's so much more fun.
Get
And
into it.
If you're nerdy about your books, you're gonna have a lot of fun in the class.
Yep. Make that group chat.
Yeah, we used our group chats about the book. It's a lot of fun.
So define what you mean by be a nerd about it.
Okay, like the more like you love your book, like your book should be your child,
Yeah,
and like
like,
take
get
it
into
everywhere and like really
and
get
talk
into
about
your
it
book.
with everyone.
Like, go
Make
to
all
lunch.
of the non-AP Lit kids be like, what
Annoyed.
is Great
Yeah.
Expectations? I need to read it.
Like,
Okay, so all three of you have grown a lot as writers and are very consistently writing really strong essays. So what are some of the things that you did that made you progress as writers?
I could say personally, I started writing intros, even though they're optional. I think it gets you on like the right path, and it's like lets you be creative for like a little bit and put your own voice in.
Yeah, I got a lot better when I started focusing on making sure that my claims were just as strong as my thesis, because they're like the thesis for each paragraph, and that they fit under the thesis really well, and my essays got a lot better.
I really liked the idea of like the light at the end of the staircase, where like before your thesis was like the end all be all, and now it's like it's a stepping stone to your big idea that you can show at the end of the paper, and it makes it a lot easier to make a paper when you're trying to just build up to an idea instead of trying to like support something.
Okay, so Alex, all throughout the year, you've really challenged yourself to keep growing as a writer.
Yeah.
What motivated you to do that?
I think that just starting out with loving to write, but then realizing that that's not enough. It's like you need that love to kind of drive you toward wanting to do better. I knew that I liked writing, but I knew that I wasn't at the place that I wanted to be now, which is being able to write in a time crunch, being able to write in a different form, in a different style. And I thought that really like drove me in AP Lit.
All right. As you see here, we are in the book room. This is a book. Before this class, I hated books.
What book is it?
I don't know.
Native Son.
Oh,
it's a pretty good book.
I've never read this book. Maybe I will. But after this class, I love reading and I do it in my free time. And I know like everyone says this, but this is actually the best English class and the best class at Homestead. Ah! Take this class. Well, you're already in this class. It's a great class. You will grow so much as a human being, as a writer, as a reader, as a friend.
As a friend.
Fiend.
That's not how you say it.
It's fall.
What?
It's fiend in Spanish.
Well, but it's French.